Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for listening to WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. You can also watch us on your smart TV, on YouTube, and also on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. I am your host, Vincent Cheeks, and you are listening to and watching Conversations in Education. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel under WCEG Network. We also have new platforms. We have WCEG mobile apps now. Yay! You can get it on your Apple Store, from your Apple Store on Apple devices, and from your Google Play Store on Android devices. We're also on Roku streaming and Alexa. Just tell Alexa to play WCEG Talk Radio. We have 12 podcast distribution platforms: Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Deezer, Spreaker, Spotify, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, GoodPod, and GeoSavant. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and the guests and not of WCEG Network. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your continued support. And I just want to say thank you again because we are at the end of season 9. Season 9. And I can't tell you, I'm so happy to be on this journey with my producer, Penny. It started off a little rocky, but here we are 9 years later, and we are still here. We have a great show for you today. I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to get right into the program with my fabulous guest. First announcement. This coming Sunday, May 19th, join the Kaumba Storytellers of Georgia for our virtual celebration to hear inspiring stories about the mothers and father figures in our lives, who we often refer to as kings and queens. Those individuals who are simply the best, one in a million. For in them, we find our inner strength, character, and soul. Our cast includes, what a surprise, my guest for today, Ms. Deborah Strahorn, that's the MC, and features tellers Brenda Griffin, Denise Chapman Acosta, Gloria Elder, Gwendolyn Napier, Josie Bailey, and Inama Arenze of the Kaumba Tattletales, which is our youth group for Kaumba. Program will be recorded, so if you are unable to attend, you can watch up to 2 weeks afterwards at your leisure, or consider making a tax-deductible donation to Kaumba Storytellers of Georgia in any amount at kaumbakingsqueens.eventbrite.com. Say that again. Kaumba Kings Queens, no spaces, no commas, .eventbrite.com. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to hear some great storytelling from amazing individuals. I've been a part of this organization for about 3 years now. And let me just say, it wasn't the organization I knew I needed in my life. It's an absolutely wonderful organization. And I'm sure all the stories this coming Sunday will be fabulous. Okay, next we have May 21st, which is next Tuesday. Primary elections. So make sure you get out and vote. Early voting ends this coming Friday, which is May 17th. Regular elections start on Tuesday, the 21st. If you need to check your voter registration or your location, you can visit mvp.sos.ga.gov. Again, that's mvp.sos.ga.gov. Go out and cast your vote and let your voice be heard. Some people think this is the elections of all elections because of who's running in it. But I'll just say, cast your vote and leave it at that. Mr. Kenny, he is going to be having his KLG Variety Showcase on July 27th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the South Fulton Library. Also, this Saturday will be the last audition uh, for KLG Variety Showcase. This Saturday, May 18th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the South Fulton Library, 4055 Flat Shoals Road, Union City, Georgia. Thank you to Mr. Kenny for putting this talent show on for the youth. If you know any youth that may be interested, it is a great opportunity for youth in general, but also for those who may be just starting out, showcasing their talents. It's a very quaint audience, small quaint audience in the library. And we have some old members coming back who have performed, and we have some new members coming back. We're always looking for new talent. So please, if you're interested in that, the audition is Saturday, May 18th, 2 to 5 p.m., South Fulton Library. Just ask for the man in charge, Mr. Kenny. And last but not least, I will be in Chiefland, Florida on June the 8th to DJ my godson, Elijah Baker's graduation party. He's graduated from high school, going into the next phase of life, and we couldn't be more proud of him. So if you're in the Chiefland, Florida area, which most people are not, because most people don't even know where it is, it's a small country city about 45 minutes west of Ocala, Florida. We're going to be partying, we're going to be having a good time, and we're going to be celebrating these young people who have just accomplished a major step in their lives. So that's going to be June 8th in Chiefland, Florida. Okay, and with that being said, we're going to get right into our show. I have a wonderful guest today. She is the founder and director of Word of Mouth in 3D. She is a professional storyteller for over 20 years. Say that again. She's a professional storyteller for over 20 years and has been featured at Apex Museum and at over 33 libraries for the Atlanta Public Library Summer Reading Program. She has performed with the Oakland Cemetery, Capturing the Spirit of Oakland, for over 10 years. And she has also performed with Southview Cemetery's Her Stories for over 6 years. Please help me welcome my guest, Miss Deborah Strahorn.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Like I said before we got started, you are very accomplished, and I didn't know that until I started researching the information you sent me. It is an honor for me to know you and to have worked with you on Capturing the Spirit of Oakland. And thank you for being here today on Conversations in Education.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. And when you call me accomplished, I'm like, wow. I've never been called that before, but thank you.
Yeah, somebody been slipping, because you are very, very accomplished. Let's get right into this, because this hour is going to go by very fast. So please tell us, what was your background before you got into entertainment and storytelling?
Well, first of all, when I was growing up, I always had an interest in words and the spoken word. My father learned how to read when he was 3 years old. So he passed the love of reading on to myself and my sister. And when I was growing up, everybody in my household was always reading something: newspapers, magazines, books, Encyclopedia Britannica. And my father would even make us look up one word in the dictionary every day. We had to write it in a sentence and be able to recite the definition of it orally to him when he came home. Okay. And as I grew up, I began to understand and appreciate what that was all about. So I just always had an interest in reading and the spoken word. But one of the things that also excited me was movies, and not just the movie and the actor themselves, but the script, and how did people put those words together and put them on a page in order for the actor to be able to showcase their talent and portray that character. So character portrayals always interested me. So when I was in high school, I was on the forensics team. And then when I went away to college, I joined Black Theater Workshop, and that's all she wrote.
Okay, and so that was your start, Black Theater Workshop.
Yes, in
Well, tell us
college.
a little
That
bit about
was
that.
it.
Tell us a
Well,
little.
when I'm from Chicago, Illinois, so I attended Northern Illinois University.
Okay.
And it was a small Black population at that time. It was only 1,000 Black students, and I think they had 20,000 students. So you tended to generate, to areas where you had a relationship, something that you could identify with. And
Right.
Black Theater Workshop just blew my mind. You didn't have to be a professional actor. And because I had been on the forensics team in high school and I knew prose and poetry, I just felt really comfortable. So you didn't have to audition. You just had to learn some lines and performed. And I remember one of the most amazing times was when we went to a small prison in Illinois and we performed A Raisin in the Sun. And we just really, the inmates were just really excited because they had an inmate group that were also storytellers.
Okay.
So right then and there, that formed a relationship to be able to share stories and tell stories, to people who were incarcerated.
That's interesting. Not only that you did that, but that they also had a storytelling group in prison?
Yeah, well, they had a performance group. They performed plays more so than storytelling, but that was probably because they did a lot of reading. So not just reading of books, but reading of screenplays and things of that nature. So I was amazed myself, but there were some really smart and talented men that I had the opportunity to meet.
Okay, that's excellent. That was something I was not expecting you to say, to even hear that they have something like that in prison. You hear the word prison, you just think of hard and cracking rocks with hammers and all this other crazy stuff. But that's pretty interesting to me. Now I want to go back to something you said earlier when you were talking about your father. You said he would have you all look up words a day in a dictionary, and you had to write it in a sentence, right? So
Yes.
that reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen the Scripps spelling bee, but they have to know these hard words. They have to know the definition. They have to use it in a sentence, and they have to know the word of origin. So how much do you think that played an influence on what you do now?
Oh, a lot. It played a big part in my upbringing because my father would always say, look people in the eye when you talk to them. Open your mouth and speak. Use your words. He was constantly correcting our English, correcting our diction. And I didn't learn until after he passed away that he learned to read when he was 3 years old. And so then I said, that's why he was so excited about words and reading. And he basically wanted us to be lifelong learners. He always talked about expanding yourself, bettering yourself, opening your mind to new things. And what better way to open your mind than by reading? And not just reading, but if there was a word that he didn't understand, he would look it up. And when he passed away, and I went through his things, I found several legal pads with words and definitions. He continued until the day he passed away, looking up words in the dictionary.
Okay. Well, I would just like to say, one, I commend your father for that. All that stuff can do is build intellect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't appreciate it then, but as I grew older, I did.
Right. And like your father, I do the same thing. If I hear a word and I don't know what it means, I'm going straight to Google or to the dictionary if you want to be old school. But it's always constantly learning and trying to better yourself. And some people, a lot of adults, even children, they tend to feel small or feel less than if they don't know something. And I've never wanted that to be me. And because it's as simple as just looking it up. And now you don't have to feel insecure about your vocabulary and you're growing yourself, you know. So I really admire that about your dad.
Well,
So
thank you, thank you.
so
And I too never want to make people feel small about what they don't know. And
right.
that's why when he talked about being lifelong learners, there's always room to go and to grow, and nobody knows everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So how did you begin to transition from what you did before and going into entertainment and storytelling?
Well, when I moved to Atlanta, I visited, I sought out arts organizations because I wanted to know where the art scene was in
Okay.
Atlanta. And when you're new to a city, you're just seeking out people and places and things to do. So one of the first places that I went to was the Wren's Nest, the
Okay.
home of Joel Chandler Harris, who recorded the Brer Rabbit tales. And when I
Okay.
went there, I had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet Akbar Imhotep, who was a master storyteller here in Atlanta. And
Okay.
he was doing puppetry and stories. And right then and there, I said, that's what I want to do. And he introduced me to Kaumba Storytellers. And from there, I joined the organization, and they were hosting a how to be a storyteller workshop. I think it was a 3-week workshop, and it was given by Ladoris Bias Davis. And I attended the workshop and learned the ins and outs of what to do.
Okay.
And that's how it all started.
That's excellent. And rest in power to Brother Akbar. He passed a few years ago. Now, I knew Brother Akbar for a very short time, but you're the second person in 2 weeks that's mentioned him because Sister Gloria Elder mentioned him also. So he must have been a very influential man. Is that correct?
He was very influential, very creative, and he had what I call stick-to-itiveness. He
Okay.
wanted to be a storyteller, even though I think when he went to college, he majored in math. He
Okay.
was a mathematician, but he was excited about stories and the spoken word and puppetry. And he made a name for himself in Atlanta, and he stuck to what he wanted to do, and he excelled in the art.
Okay. Well, I'm honored to have known him for the little time that I did.
I as well.
Yes, ma'am. So, what is your organization, Word of Mouth Stories in 3D Inc., and what do you all do exactly?
Well, that was a nonprofit that I started, and I originally started it because I was writing grants for other people. And I realized that if I wanted to be able to write grants for myself, I could do that by starting my own nonprofit. And it's based in literacy because it's word of mouth stories in 3D. And so, what I wanted to be able to do was to write grants to do storytelling programs for myself. And what inspired me to do that was Kaumba Storytellers, because one of the first grants that I wrote was for Kaumba Storytellers. And it was a $5,000 grant that got funded through the Fulton County Arts Council.
Okay.
And I didn't know I could write grants. So I accomplished that. And I said, well, let me do my own organization. So Word of Mouth Stories in 3D, it basically started, it was named after myself, Deborah, my friend Esther, and my friend Ernestine,
Okay.
3D, because we were always traveling together and doing programs and sharing stories. But basically, 3D means that there are 3 parts to a story. There's the
Okay.
storyteller, there's the audience, and there's the story. And the most important part of that is the story.
Okay.
So with my storytelling, when I'm doing workshops, I read the story, and then I show people how to transition from reading the story to telling the story, and
Okay.
to telling the story live without any books. And then the third part is how to make props to enhance the story. So that's the 3D: reading the story, telling the story, and creating props to go along with it.
Reading, telling, and props.
Mm-hmm.
And are props necessary for every story, or is it
No,
just to
no, no. A lot of people don't use props, but when I'm performing for younger audiences, it tends to draw them into the story. And also, if I have, I do interactive storytelling where I invite youth up to join me in the story. So sometimes if they have a prop to hold up, a picture or something to hold up, it makes them feel a little more comfortable.
Okay. Now, why do you believe that storytelling is the voice of literacy?
Because we all start off talking before we read. And so everyone has a voice and everyone has a story to tell. So literacy is more than just reading. It's talking, it's hearing, it's thinking, it's using your imagination. Literacy is not just reading the words on the page, and literacy is the way that we express ourselves.
Okay.
Believe it or not, everybody's going to have to get up in front of an audience at some point and say something. If you're at a job interview, it's like telling your story. If you're in class and your teacher says, share your report, you're telling a story. The minister in church is sharing a story. So we give voice to literacy by telling our stories. And everybody has that within them. And you tell a story about what happened today when you get home from work. And we're always using our voice and our words. But basically, literacy is the first form of communication.
Okay.
We communicate with to everyone with our voice and our words. And communication is so important. So it's the voice of literacy.
It is. You can't get anything great accomplished without great communication. Absolutely.
Exactly.
If it's a friendly relationship, work relationship, partner relationship, if you don't have good communication, at some point it's going to start tanking. So
countries communicate with each other. Yes. Communication. And when the communication breaks down, what happens?
Nothing good. Communication is very important. Now, you just mentioned a second ago that at some point, everybody's going to have to get up and speak in front of an audience. My question to you is, do you or have you ever been nervous when you start getting up and telling stories and speaking? And what advice would you give to people to overcome that nervousness or fear?
Oh, I get nervous all the time. More so when I'm telling a new story for the first time, because I don't own it yet. You can practice the story all day and all night, but until you've told it in front of an audience, it's a different feeling, it's a different connection, a different vibe. So I'm always nervous the first time that I'm telling a story. But what I would say to anyone else who is nervous is to learn your material, know your material, practice, practice, practice. So when I'm learning a new story, I might record it on my phone and listen to it at night. You know, I say the words into the phone, listen to it at night. I say the story when I'm walking my dog. I rehearse it when I'm in the shower, when I'm washing dishes. I just keep doing that until I own it. And when you own the story, when you know it inside out, it takes away a few of the butterflies.
Now, that is true. That's something that I learned when I got into acting and things, that the more I knew the material, the more comfortable I felt. And so you have to put in the work, if you will, if you're going
Absolutely.
if you're going to be in this space of entertainment / storytelling, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you're telling your stories, is there a particular theme that you use when telling the stories, or do you just talk about some of everything?
Well, it depends on who my audience is. It depends on the time of year. If it's Black History Month, I have a series of Black history tales that I'm going to share. But it just depends on what the venue wants. But I find that kindness is a theme that runs through many of my stories. For the Black history stories, it might be power and perseverance. So there is a theme associated with it. Right now, I'm working on a series of stories about High John the Conqueror, who was a figure in African American history who always tried to have one up on the master or the slave owner. I'm also working on a series of bullying stories, a series of historical portraits for women. So there's several different themes. Well, I shouldn't say several. There are innumerable themes that you could come up with.
Okay. What was the name of the conqueror? Can you spell that for me?
High John the Conqueror.
High John. It's spelled like the song.
Yep.
H-I-J-O-H-N. High John.
High John.
Okay. And so you also mentioned you have a bullying story series, and I want to touch on that for a second because I've worked with the organization a few years ago, and we would do a Stop the Bullying school tour where we would go into different schools and we'd have a program with speakers and youth entertainers. But the overall theme was how to stop bullying other students and how to love your neighbor and things like that. So how did you come about being in this space of telling stories about not bullying?
Oh, I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I said that's one of the things that I'm working on, but I think it's so important because you see it so much. You see it all the time. And that kind of backs up to that kindness thing that I talked about. So for example, when I do the story of the Big Bad Wolf and the Three Little Pigs, at the end, I never have the wolf coming down the chimney and being boiled in a pot because that's cruel. So what the pigs do is they holler up the chimney, you know, hey, Mr. Wolf, if you come down, we'll share our soup and we can be friends. And the wolf says, duh, soup, friends. I'd rather be friends than fight. So he comes down and they're friends. So how can we take some of these themes and turn them around? You know, when you look at some of the fairy tales, there's so much violence in them. So I just don't want to end on a violent note.
Okay, and the story of the Three Little Pigs, did that end with him in a soup pot?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And see, I considered him a bully. So that was the question you asked. So I take that story and we'll have a little conversation about now, why was the wolf chasing him? Do you think that was nice or that was, cruel? And so it could just have a theme of meanness. He was just being mean and greedy, but I relate that to bullying because I'm trying to make children think about what are your options.
Right. And that's definitely a different spin because there are a lot of children's stories and fairy tales that end not so nicely. And so for you to take that and spin it to where someone is bullying you, and instead of seeking revenge on them, you extend an olive branch, if you will, and try to see how you can smooth that over instead of becoming a lifelong enemy.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. Great. All right, so let's move on a little bit and talk about the storytelling organizations that you're a part of. So tell us, what is the Columbus Storytellers of Georgia and NABS, the National Association of Black Storytellers, and how long have you been a member of each organization?
Well, as I said earlier, once I met Akbar Imhotep, he introduced me to Kaumba. and I became a member. So Kaumba is a Black storytelling organization, and we're getting ready to celebrate our 30th anniversary. And it started here in Atlanta by a group of people who wanted to promote the art of Black stories and Black literature.
Okay.
So, funny story. So after I met Akbar, I learned about NABS, the National Association of Black Storytellers, and they were having a conference in, I think it was Winston-Salem. So I flew all the way to Winston-Salem, attended the conference, met Jackie Torrance, some of the other premier storytellers, and I was hooked. And on the way home from NABS, I sat on the plane with Akbar. And that's when we talked about Kaumba and pushing Kaumba to the next level. We became an affiliate of the National Association of Black Storytellers. And now NABS has 17 affiliates around the United States. So whereas Kaumba is celebrating our 30th anniversary, NABS, which started in Baltimore, is getting ready to celebrate, I believe it's their 42nd or 43rd anniversary. So each year there's an annual conference and it travels to different cities. Last year it was in Utah, and I forget where it's going to be this year, but in 2025, Kaumba Storytellers of Georgia is going to host the NABS conference for the third time.
Okay.
We hosted it in 2007 and 2011, and we'll do it again this year. And some of next year in 2025. And some of the most awesome storytellers from around the country descend on NABS every year.
So Kaumba is like the baby brother of NABS.
Kind of, but there's 17 baby brothers.
That's a lot of
There's 17 baby brothers. That's right. That's right. I don't know if we were born out of NABS, but you know, and affiliates pop up around the United States all the time. I know they have them in Florida, Baltimore, North Carolina, you know, Utah, several places.
Okay. And when is the 30-year celebration for Kaumba going to be?
Well, we are going to start celebrating in January. We're trying to put together a series of programs now, and it's going to include a lot of storytelling. We're going to create an official T-shirt, and it's going to culminate with the NABS conference being here in Atlanta. And we might even produce another CD. We did a storytelling CD quite a few years ago, and so we might do that again. So we're putting together our ideas now, but it'll kick off in January.
Okay, excellent. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about this weekend's upcoming event, the Kings and Queens storytelling?
Well, as you said, the Kings and Queens is taking place this weekend. Usually we do something called Mama Tales. That was one of our signature programs, but we didn't want to leave fathers out. So we combined it to talk about the Kings and the Queens. And we even put Juneteenth in there because we want to celebrate our heritage. We want to celebrate the men and the women who endured. And so thinking about some of that endurance, be it your mom, your dad, your aunts, uncles, whoever is the person in your life that you relate to, we threw Juneteenth in there because, not threw it in, but we added that to the rich melting pot of who we are, to talk about some of the experiences that we have had that propel us forward. So Juneteenth is an important part of that as well. Okay.
And what does Juneteenth mean to you? Like, why is it important to you, and why is it important that we celebrate it as a community?
It's about freedom. It's about independence. How is it that slaves were free, but the message didn't get to Texas until almost 2 years later? And how did that change people's lives? So a lot of people may not celebrate July 4th because it represents something else to them. But Juneteenth represents Black freedom. And so I think, you can look at it two ways: the freedom of our country without the freedom of all Black people. So I think it's significant. And it's also part of our history. A lot of Black people didn't know what Juneteenth stood for. So just the making of a national holiday and why it's important, and why is it important that Black people are able to recognize their freedom and to tell the stories, and what does red velvet cake really mean? And there are just so many components of it that I'm still learning about. And so it's a celebration of our culture and history. So it's really important to me.
It's definitely a celebration for us. Now, there was a bit of a controversy surrounding it when they made it a national holiday. I think it was in 2020 or 2021. It became a national holiday. There were a lot of people unhappy about that. What are your thoughts on the controversy surrounding Juneteenth?
I think a lot of people are unhappy about a lot of things, but check this out. What does President's Day mean? That's a holiday and people celebrate that, but what does it really mean? What does President's Day really mean? How is that significant for you and me? So I think the fact that there's controversy around it is just another opportunity to have a conversation.
That is true. And the conversation was not being had, but there are some people that feel like it takes away from the 4th of July. We don't need to have two independence celebrations. It was just a whole big thing. And so I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on it. I know for me, my only issue with when they made Juneteenth a legal holiday is concerning, it came about in the summer of 2020 when the country was in an uproar about, most of the country was in an uproar about what happened to George Floyd. And there were BLM protests and, stop killing us and all of this stuff. And the government's fix for that was to make Juneteenth a national holiday. And for me, it was two totally separate things. And I felt like they made Juneteenth a national holiday just to pacify us, to like throw us a bone and make us shut up about the bigger issue, which is cops still getting away with killing minorities in this country. So for me, that was the only issue that I had with it. Other than that, I think it should have been done sooner, but I definitely agree with what you said about it now gives us an opportunity to have the conversation amongst ourselves and also to have the conversation among people that do not look like us and try to get them to understand why it's important and why it should be included as a whole with the entire country, because we are supposed to be the United States.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of friends who agreed with your take on it about pacifying us and throwing us a bone. But now that we have it, what do we do with it? And I think that's the more important thing to look at now. What do we do with it, and how can you make it a celebration and, sharing our history and knowledge?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, moving right along. Thank you for that, Deborah. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Thank you to the audience for tuning in to WCEG Network Conversations and Educations. This is our final show of the year, and what a way to close it out. Thank you, Miss Deborah. So why is it important for youth to be involved with the art of storytelling?
Because everybody has a story to tell, and everybody has. Yes,
they're told to be quiet, and young people to be seen and not heard. You sure?
And that's the problem. That's the problem. We're so busy saying, sit down, shut up, be quiet, don't move, don't do anything till I tell you to do. Well, everybody has a voice. And how can you expect someone to grow into themselves and to go out in the world and do and be if you don't allow them to have a voice, if you don't encourage them to have a voice and to speak up. And it's important to be able to know our history and talk about it. The most embarrassing thing is when someone brings up something about your history that you can't talk intelligently about. And those things are going to happen because nobody knows everything. But I think it's important for young people to be well read and to be inquisitive, always seeking education, because you can be a high school dropout, but you can still be educated. And I'm not, promoting not going to high school, but some of the most intelligent people I met didn't go to college. Just because you don't have a formal college education doesn't mean you're not knowledgeable. So let's just all be lifelong learners. Pick up a book that you're not assigned to read. Go to the library on your own and continue to seek knowledge. And when you do, you'll always have a voice.
Always have a voice. And I agree with what you said. We all have a voice and we all have a story. But when you give children these phrases like children are to be seen and not heard at an early age, it stills their voice and it stills their opportunity to be creative about themselves. And so I think that the arts in general should be for our youth and for young people. And along those lines, with me saying that, why do you think so many schools have taken the arts out of school?
Because they see the arts as something pleasurable, fun, and secondary. But when you really look at it and how the arts meshes with everything we do, if you are going to be an engineer, engineering requires math, but it also requires design. If you're going to design a building, the arts is in everything we do. Someone designed your clothing. People can design different hairstyles. You've seen African-American hair braiding. That's art. It's design. It takes precision. It includes math. How many braids are you going to put this way? How many are going the other way? So everything is tied together. Why do you think they put the STEAM in STEM? Why do you think they added arts to that? Because the arts is interwoven into everything we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that the arts provides a sense of balance. You have the intellect and then you have the creative arts, which gives us that balance, but it also gives you opportunities to be more successful in different areas of life. Like you're not just on this one path, which is school and education, and which is not for everybody. Like you mentioned earlier, education is not for everybody. Going to college is not for everybody. But if you give them that balance, and now they can choose between whether I want to take the intellectual route or the creative route, that gives them more freedom also, which you talked about freedom earlier. So
it does, but I don't look at it as an either or. The arts is in everything we do every day. Believe it or not, it's interwoven, it's intertwined.
Okay. And so, as I mentioned at the opening, you have been featured as a teller in over 33 libraries for the Atlanta Public Library Summer Reading Program. Tell us a little bit about that program and how did you get involved with that?
Well, I got invited to do that as a fluke. Every year, the library would do a summer reading program and they would be looking for storytellers. And one year, I believe I was writing a grant for this storytelling program. And she said that it may come through and it may not, but they dropped the grant program and then decided to go in a different way. So I think myself and another teller whose name I don't remember were invited to do the storytelling events over a 2-month period at 33 libraries. And this was the Fulton County library system. So because of that relationship, I just had the opportunity to do it. And I think it was simpler than coordinating several storytellers to be at several different places. And it was just my honor. It was just my honor. And it was an awesome time to be able to not only perform for the public, but to see the library system at its best and to see the wonderful places and spaces that we use all over the county.
Okay, it's excellent. And I'm sure you touched a lot of young people's lives.
Oh, I did. And there are a lot of families, who attended as well, because it's summer reading, and they have all sorts of programs where you can get prizes just by reading books. And reading is a way in the summertime to keep that education going, so you're not losing what you learned during the school year.
Okay. And the reading feeds into that voice of literacy that you were talking about.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So do you think libraries still have a long shelf life, or are they going the way of the dinosaurs because of the virtual world that we live in now?
Oh, no. Libraries still have a long shelf life. And for anybody who does not believe that, over the last 5 years, Fulton County has renovated all 33 libraries in the Fulton County library system. So if the libraries were going to be a thing of the past, they would not have done that. But libraries are not just places to check out books. They have so many resources. They are a place to have workshops and seminars. They even introduce you to so many forms of technology. They have this little machine that builds things. I don't know exactly how it works, but if you think libraries are a thing of the past, ask Jay-Z. Did you hear what he did?
Jay-Z,
Jay-Z, the rapper.
No, I didn't hear about that.
He has 13 albums. So he allowed the library system in, I forget where he's from, but in his area, I think it's in New York. And they took his 13 album covers and made library cards. And on the day that the library cards were issued, library card enrollment went up. 4,000 people registered.
Oh, wow.
On that day. He also had an exhibit at the library, and it was about the history and culture of rap, his history. And so he and his team had the wherewithal to bring attention to the importance of learning and libraries and reading. So if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. And
that's pretty powerful.
That. It is.
That's pretty
Thank
powerful.
You for sharing that.
So libraries are here to stay. Yeah, and you know what else? I encourage people to visit different libraries in different areas of the city. The structures are magnificent, and the resources, you just don't know until you go into the library what they have to offer.
Okay. So let's move into talking about the work you do performing at cemeteries, which sounds weird, but I'll let you explain that a little bit. So you've worked on Capturing the Spirit of Oakland at Oakland Cemetery for 10 years or so. Please tell our audience what CSO is and how did you become a part of that particular organization?
Well, it was weird to me at first too. And my girlfriend invited me to participate because she was one of the only Black storyteller at the cemetery. But the reason that Oakland Cemetery does this is to pay for the upkeep of the cemetery. That's how it started. Because if you think about it, if someone's family has a mausoleum and the family dies out, or either the last living relative says, well, I didn't build that, I'm not going to take care of it. Who's going to come out every day and take care of it? Who's going to go to different grave sites and put flowers and manicure the lawn? So even though it's a public park, so to speak, somebody has to take care of it. Somebody has to replace the broken headstones. And so they started this program called Capturing the Spirit of Oakland. So what they do is their goal was to tell the story of everybody who's buried in the cemetery, as long as they can find enough information on that person.
Okay.
So it's only stories of people who are actually buried there, and it's done very tastefully. So on the night of the program, it's 8 nights of storytelling over 2 weeks, two
Okay.
weekends, and it's the last 2 weeks in October every year. And they pick 6 or 7 graves. They have someone to do the research of who's buried there. And then we dress in costumes to portray what that person may have looked like. And then they have a tour guide who takes you to the first grave, and that person tells a 7 to 8 minute story about that person. And then you move on to the next grave. It
Okay.
is the most wonderful program that I participate in. I look forward to it every year. And there's so much history
So much
at the
history.
cemetery.
So much history. That's the best part for me is like learning about these pioneers of Atlanta before Atlanta
Mhm.
is what we know it is today.
Exactly. And one of the interesting things is, even if you don't get to go to the capturing the spirit of Oakland, because it sells out just like that. 5,000 tickets. If you're a member, you get your tickets first. But if you wanted to go to the cemetery and just take a tour, they have just a regular tour that just talks about the cemetery, but they also have love story tours. So they'll take you to the graves of people who have a love story. They have the sports legends tours. They have the mayor's tour, where they
Okay.
take you to all the graves of the mayors who are buried there, and you can hear
Okay.
what their contributions to the city were. So there's so many different tours that you can take at Oakland.
It is. And do you think that the popularity of Capturing the Spirit of Oakland is attributed to the rich history that you can learn from going there? Because this sells out every year, and I've been the past 3 years I've been doing it. I've been trying to figure out why is this thing so popular.
It's the hottest ticket in Atlanta because it's something different, and the stories are so rich. But Oakland Cemetery has their marketing down pat. It's a
Okay.
little something for
Okay.
everyone. They do the 10K race called Run Like Hell. They do a 5K race called Run Like Heck. They do people get married at the cemetery. They have they
Wow.
have a in the fall, they have the pumpkin patch. They
Wow.
have the Sunday in the park where they have different vendors. And just recently, I can't think of the name of, oh, the Day of the Dead. This will be the third, maybe the fourth year for the Hispanic Day of the Dead
Okay. The Santeria,
celebration.
Santeria, right, or something like
Mm-hmm. And
that.
it's just an awesome celebration. So they just want people to come out and share the cemetery, which is actually a park, just to enjoy the park and to learn history and culture, not just of Oakland and the building of Oakland, but the history of the people that are buried there.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Can you give us one or two of the people that you portrayed at Oakland Cemetery
Oh,
and
one
what
of
they
my
did?
most favorite characters, or residents as they call them, is Marie Antoinette Woolfolk Taylor, who was one of the co-founders of the AKA sorority. And she
Oh
just
wow.
had a powerful story. She was an educator, but her story was just powerful. But my favorite character was year before last, Leah Wright Day, who
Okay.
was one of the leaders of the washerwoman strike of 1881.
Okay.
Washerwomen were being paid between $4 to $8 to do a month's worth of laundry. And they decided to go on strike for better wages, to be able to have authority over their own work. And they even encouraged some of the bus boys at local hotels to strike for higher wages. And it is a powerful story.
Okay.
And,
And what was her
and
name?
Leah Wright Day. Leah Wright Day. And they even have the washerwoman strike on exhibit at the Smithsonian in Washington. Yes, they do.
Wow. See, and that's what I'm talking about. Like I would have never known about this woman had you not just told me that. Like, she's not gonna be in our history books, and that's why I think it's important for Oakland Cemetery to do what they do, because I've learned so
Mhm.
much just performing there for the past 3 years.
Mhm.
It's just so much history.
It is. It is. One year we did a story about, did you ever think who provided the food for the civil rights movement? When these people were getting
Mhm.
together and meeting and talking and discussing who was providing the food. And so there were women who opened their homes and their kitchens and who made sure that they were fed, and not just 10 or 12 men sitting around a table, but when the march was getting ready to happen, who were the people providing the food. So it's a powerful story. There's a lot to history that we don't know, more
Right.
than just the main names that you hear who were on the front lines of the civil rights movement. A lot of people, behind the scenes who did their part too.
Okay. And someone in comments said some cemeteries used to have country clubs on the property and folks would go there and party, which I've never heard that either.
I've never heard that either.
I didn't hear about a lot of things pertaining to cemeteries until I started working with Oakland Cemetery.
Mhm.
If you all don't know, if you're in Atlanta, Oakland Cemetery is located right in the heart of downtown Atlanta off of Memorial Drive, right?
And it used to be the country when it was first built, and now it's inner city.
I can see it being the country. And so they literally had to build the city of Atlanta around the cemetery.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing to know. And so you also work with another cemetery called Southview Cemetery, and they do a series called Her Stories that you worked on. What is that all about?
Yeah, they do her stories, but they also do include African American men in that as well. But the Her
Oh,
Stories
okay.
series was just powerful stories about women. So they might have one year they geared it towards Spelman College. So every year it has a different theme. So one of the people that I performed was Adrienne McNeil Herndon, who was the wife of Alonzo Herndon, who founded Atlanta Life Insurance Company.
Okay.
And this year I did Grace Towns Hamilton, who was one of the first, I think in 1952, she became the first female director of the Atlanta Urban League. And then in
Okay.
1965, she was the first African American woman elected to the Georgia legislature. So they just want to uplift the stories of powerful women. And
Okay.
I forgot to say that Adrienne McNeil Herndon was not only the wife of Alonzo Herndon, but she had her own story to tell. She wanted to be an actor, a thespian, and she was able to break into the field. But then when they found out that she was not Black because she was passing, they
Mm.
pushed her out of her calling, of her passion. So there are a lot of stories that are untold.
Okay. And the Herndons that you just mentioned, are these the Herndons that was associated with Herndon Homes in Atlanta?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Because I'm sitting here like, why do I know that name? See, and that's
Exactly. Uh-huh.
that's what I'm talking about. Like I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, their house is a museum here in Atlanta, and then they
Okay.
have the Herndon Homes Housing Project, and then they have Atlanta Life Insurance Company, which Alonzo Herndon founded.
Did not know that either. That's excellent. Excellent. I love all this lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning.
And so how did you come to be associated with Southview Cemetery and get involved with them?
Well, Southview, some of the same people who write the scripts at Southview write the scripts at Oakland, and
Okay.
Southview wanted to tell their stories too, and also the whole idea of coming to a cemetery. They want people to feel comfortable. They want people to learn the stories, but we're all going to end up in a cemetery. And some people just don't want to talk about death, but there is life at the cemetery too. And so part of this for me is taking away the fear of cemeteries. And it's not just a place that's gory and scary,
Right.
They want people to come to the cemetery for more than just seeing their visiting their deceased family and friends.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that you wanted to take the fear away from going to the cemetery, and that you said there is life at the cemetery, because I can't tell you the number of times I say, "Oh, I'm doing a performance at the cemetery," and they like, "Cemetery? Why? What cemetery? Why you doing? I didn't have it in that cemetery. Don't nobody want to go to the cemetery." And I'm like, it's just, it's not even. I start to say that it's just people, but it's not even people. It's just the shell of people. Like, what are you so afraid of? Get out of the movie, get out of TV, and just go and experience, like you said. And I guarantee you, you will learn something, and you will get life from the cemetery, like you said.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the fun events that Oakland has is Tunes from the Tomb. They set up 3 musical stages throughout the cemetery, and they have 3 different bands with different music. It might be country, it might be jazz, zydeco, whatever, at each stage, and they have plenty of food and drink. And so it's a fun time, but this is all to help with the upkeep, but also to help people just enjoy and make the cemetery a place where you're not afraid to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I have a bit of breaking news to share with you about
Okay.
Southview Cemetery. I got the email about 2 hours ago from Miss Hemphill over at Southview, inviting me to participate in a story they're telling in September about the 1906 Atlanta massacre.
There you go. History. Wonderful. I told you to just move forward.
You did. And so I'm looking forward to that. I want to thank you, because you know how she heard about me. Miss Hemphill heard about me. Word of mouth. See what I did there? Word of mouth. You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
So for those who don't get this inside joke that me and Deborah laughing at, Deborah recommended me to Miss Winifred Hemphill over at Southview Cemetery a couple of days ago, last week sometime, and Miss Hemphill sent me the invite email today. So thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Miss Hemphill. I'm looking forward to this new opportunity in bringing another story to life. I like that.
There you go.
Life at the cemetery. I'm start using that one, Darren. Can I use that one? Okay. So looking forward to that. So in September at Southview Cemetery, September 21st is the date she gave. At Southview Cemetery, we'll be telling the story of the 1906 Atlanta race massacre. And then the next month in October, I'll be back at Oakland Cemetery telling someone's story there also. So I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to the old and the new opportunity. So
there you go.
All right. This has been a great interview, by the way. Okay, with a very accomplished Miss Deborah Strahorn. Thank you for all the work that you do with educating our youth, and the work that you do in the community. Like, it's so important. It's so very important. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
A few more questions here, and then we're going to wrap up the interview. I want to talk about your book for a second. So you published your first children's book in 2017. What's the title and what is it about?
It is called The Always Busy, Sometimes Quiet, Often Noisy Room.
Okay, got it.
Just came up with that title based on another book, Alexander and the Always Busy, Sometimes Horrible, Terrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Okay.
Something like that. But
Can
I was inspired.
Can you hold the book up again, please? Yes, right there. There we go. Yes, they're always busy, sometimes quiet, often noisy room. Thank you, ma'am.
There you go. There you go. And so I was inspired. Someone who knew I was a storyteller, they were in Africa, and they brought me back these handmade puppets. Okay. There are 6 of them, And women in Africa make these puppets as a way to earn a living. And when I saw the puppets, the story just kind of evolved.
Gotcha.
And it's a story about a little boy who doesn't have any siblings. He doesn't talk, but his parents know he can, because he has all of these adventures in his room with his stick puppets. And he goes on safari and he goes to the jungle, and he makes all of these noises and sounds. And so I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end of the story, but the story just kind of evolved from these puppets. So I was excited. It was self-published.
Self-published.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's excellent. And where can this book be purchased?
It was originally done through Create Space, which is now on Amazon. And it's through, I think it's through KDP Publishing. But if you go to Amazon and you put in my name, the book should come up.
Okay. And do you have any plans on writing any more books?
I do, and I need to get busy. I had a book that I started, a script that I started over 10 years ago called We Went for a Walk. And I was a childcare provider in my home for 10 years. And every day we would take 2 walks throughout the community. And the children just had some amazing things to say, discovery, you know, about a spider web, about the neighbor down the street. And so I'm turning that into a series called We Went for a Walk.
We Went for a Walk. Okay. Excellent. Is there a potential date for that, or is it just in the process?
It's in the process, but you know what? When you put a date to it, that makes it real. So I'm just going to say live here, it's going to be done by December of 2024, because I need to stop dragging my feet.
All right, now. You heard it first here on Conversations in Education.
Thank you for that nudge.
Yes, ma'am. Nudging you into further greatness. That is excellent. That's excellent. Okay. Last but not least, on my list of amazing things that you do, we have your consulting company. So what is WOM, W-O-M Consulting, and how does it serve the community?
It's basically all the things that I do. My storytelling, grant writing, all of that combined into one. I just put it under an umbrella, because some of the things that I do for storytelling are not grant related. So my nonprofit, you know, is one hat, but my personal storytelling and my grant writing for other projects is another hat. And I also teach a pre-K class. I do workshops. So I just house that all under WOM Consulting. Okay.
All right, that's excellent. So they can come to you for storytelling, they can come to you for grant writing, they can come for you for writing scripts, just some of anything. You're one-stop shop.
And financial literacy is also under that umbrella as well.
Financial literacy, I'm glad you said that. Do you have a website?
Not for WOM, because it's just for the storytelling at this time.
Okay, and someone in the comments wrote that Congressman John Lewis is buried at Southview Cemetery. Did you know that?
He is. He is. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. Excellent. Absolutely wonderful. Do you have any upcoming performances?
Well, I'm going to be at the Wren's Nest on June 9th, I think it is, whatever that Saturday is. And hopefully...
That's the day I'll be teaching.
Okay, June 8th. At the Wren's Nest. And then I have some summer camps that I'm doing that's not open to the public.
Okay. And so the summer camp, is that you have a private relationship with schools or something?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. St. Thomas More School. I'll be performing there for 5 weeks for their summer camp.
Okay. So the general public can catch you June 8th at the Wren's Nest.
At the Wren's Nest. And any other performances that I have, I'll always post on my Facebook or on Instagram.
Okay, which leads me into my last question. How can people contact you for services? So can you please give them your Instagram, Facebook, and whatever else you use to have people contact?
Instagram is Deborah Strahorn, Deborah Strahorn, no Y. And Facebook is same name or either word of mouth stories in 3D.
Okay.
And through those sites, my website, storiesin3d.org, and that's number 3, letter N, letter D, storiesin3d.org. And my phone and email is on that site.
I was about to say, please don't give out your phone number. It's on the site. Okay.
Yes.
And that's stories, STORIES, the letter N,
Uh-huh.
the number
Number
3,
3,
letter D,
mm-hmm.
.org.
.org. Uh-huh.
Storiesin3d.org.
Yes.
Instagram is Deborah Strahorn, DEBORAH Strayhorn, no Y. And Facebook was what again?
I have 2 Facebook, Deborah Strahorn, and also Word of Mouth Stories in 3D.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So finally, before we get out of here, do you have any advice for anyone who may be looking to get into storytelling and or entertainment?
Read, read, read. If you're looking to get into storytelling, read and write. There's some amazing stories to be told. You can do original stories. I did 2 original stories, one on Josephine Baker and another on Anna Mae Winburn, who was a big band leader. But you can create your own stories, but you have to keep your audience in mind. If you're going to be a storyteller, what is the audience you want to tell to?
Okay.
The senior homes is a good audience to tell to, because they are always looking for people to come in and interact. But that's a good audience. That's a good audience. But if you want to be a storyteller, join a storytelling organization. Kaumba just had an open mic last Saturday where you can just come on and sit and listen to stories. And that's how, when you start hearing other people tell stories, then it says, oh, that's what a storyteller is. But you can also go to YouTube and input storytellers, and other storytellers will start to pop up. And then you can get a better idea of how to craft your story, what kind of stories people are telling, what kind of audiences, you might be able to tell to.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that, Ms. Strayhorn. And let me get this, your Facebook with word of mouth, something.
Word of mouth stories in 3D.
So you said you had 2 of them.
And the other one is Deborah Strahorn.
Got all that information down. Thank you very much, ma'am. This has been absolutely wonderful. I love bringing people on my show and just learning so much about them. I've known you for 3 years now, and I did not know you were so accomplished. And I'm going to keep using that word because it's true. Okay.
I appreciate you, and I just appreciate this opportunity so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being here once again. And before we get out of here, I have to give my scholars of the week. My first scholar of the week is Miss India Faust. She is the niece of our producer, Miss Penny. She is the daughter of Natalie and James Faust. She just graduated from Benedict College. Not only did she graduated cum laude honors. Okay, that is excellent because I graduated, thank you, Laude, and I'm glad I am still here. And she graduated with her degree in mass communication. So shout out to you, Miss India Faust. That's a wonderful, wonderful family. My next scholar of the week goes to a former guest of mine. I had her on the show in 2016, and she goes by the name of Winter Avery. She is the daughter of Tamara Casey. Winter was, I believe, 10 years old when she was on my show, and now she's an 18-year-old senior graduating from college, and graduating from high school. She will be going to Alabama A&M, and she will be a communications media major. Okay, so shout out to Winter. Winter is also the host of Winter's World Radio on Hits 92.3 if you want to check her out. Congratulations, Winter. I'm sure you're going to continue to do great things. Winter with a Y. Let me get that straight, because she made sure I had that. When she was on my show, she said Winter with a Y and made the little Y with her name. So shout out to you, Winter. Great job. I also want to give a special shout out to my goddaughter, Amaya Baker. She is in elementary school at Whispering Winds Charter School, and she received the Superintendent's Reading Award this year. So congratulations to you, Amaya. We were just talking about the importance of reading, right, Deborah?
Yep.
So she's already on the right track. I got to open her mind up into writing her own stories and all of that stuff. So by the time she gets adult like us, she'll be all over the place. She might be a one-stop shop like Deborah Strahorn too. So congratulations to my goddaughter, Maya Baker. I'm very proud of you for that. And I also want to give last but not least, a special shout out to my godson, Elijah Baker, Maya's brother. Elijah is graduating from high school. He graduated with a 3.3 GPA. He will be getting his associates from the College of Central Florida. Then he's going to move on to USF for his bachelor's in business. In high school, he received his forklift certification as well as his CNA license. CNA stands for Certified Nursing Assistants, if I'm correct. So that's two pretty different extremes, forklift and nursing. So he is going to be very well rounded. And the best part about him graduating and going on to college is he has received $114,000 in scholarship. Woohoo! More money, more money, more money. I'm very proud of you, Elijah Baker. Can't wait to turn up with you at your party on June the 8th. We're going to have a good time. And last but not least, shout out to all the graduates, those graduating from high school, those graduating from college. Congratulations to you all. You put in the work. Congratulations. And I wish you the best on your next phase of life. I'm sure you'll do excellent in that as well. Oh, Miss Penny sent me something earlier today that said Howard University had its largest graduating class with over 3,000 students graduating this year. So shout out to Howard, shout out to the HBCUs, still doing great things and turning out productive members of society. It's absolutely wonderful. So thanks everyone. Thank you again. Thank you to my guest, Deborah Strahorn, for being here. And thank you for all the work that you do in the community and with our youth. And last but not least, thank you to my listening audience for being with me, staying with me. We've completed year 8. Yes, completed year 8. We'll be starting season 9 in the fall in September. I hope you will join us. And that's it for today. Thank you all. Have a great summer, everyone. We'll see you in the fall. Peace.
Thanks, Vince. Bye-bye.